Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at one of the most unbelievable reinvention stories in modern history, the pivot, how failure forged Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. We're talking about a guy going from getting completely cut from a football team to literally making billions. It's wild to think about, right? Going from hitting absolute rock bottom on the field to building a global entertainment empire. Just think about this number for a second, $11.4 billion. That is the worldwide box office gross of his films. It firmly cements him as one of the highest-grossing actors of all time. I mean, whether it's the Fast and Furious franchise, Jumanji, or Moana, the guy is a guaranteed draw at the theater. But you know what? Hollywood is just one piece of this giant puzzle. Because he isn't just an actor anymore. He's a total business mogul. The scope of his empire today is just staggering. He's a co-owner of the United Football League, which means he basically took control of his own football destiny. He sits on the board of directors for TKO Group Holdings, that's the massive parent company for both the UFC and the WWE. Oh, and he also co-founded 7 Bucks Productions, churning out huge hit TV shows and movies. He is at the absolute peak of the mountain right now. But before the billions? Well, there was the bench and the Canadian Football League, because the road to all this success definitely wasn't a straight line of victories. In fact, it was paved with profound, crushing athletic failure. To really grasp how he built this empire, we have to look at how his very first dream was completely shattered. So let's rewind. His early life was, well, pretty erratic and incredibly unstable. Born in California back in 1972, he lived in New Zealand, bounced from Hawaii over to Tennessee, before finally landing at Freedom High School in Pennsylvania in 1990. He was constantly uprooted, just perpetually the new kid trying to fit in. And that lack of stability definitely took a toll. As a teenager in Pennsylvania, he was really struggling. Actually, scratch that. He wasn't just struggling. He was getting drawn into conflict and petty crime. By the time he was just 17 years old, he'd been arrested multiple times. And these were serious charges, too. Fighting, theft, check fraud. He even got suspended from high school for 2 weeks for fighting. He was heading down a really dangerous path, and it honestly could have derailed his whole life before it even really began. But then, an intervention happened. A high school football coach named Jody Quick saw this raw, untapped athletic potential in him and recruited him to play defensive tackle. Suddenly, football gave him the structure he so desperately needed. Listen to how Johnson describes it. My thought process started to change. That's when I started thinking about goals and what I wanted to accomplish. This was a huge personal turning point. It just goes to show how one person offering a bit of structure can completely redirect someone's life. And man, did that newly found discipline pay off. He ended up earning a full athletic scholarship to play for the University of Miami, which was one of the absolute elite college programs in the country at the time. Suddenly, he's on the national stage, chasing that ultimate NFL dream. But there was a catch. He was about to hit a massive roadblock and find himself playing completely in the shadows. So, yes, he was part of the 1991 national championship team, and he played in 39 games over his college career. Not bad, right? But guess how many games he actually started? 1. Just a single start. Despite his undeniable talent, he was buried deep on the depth chart. And why? Because the guy starting right in front of him happened to be future Pro Football Hall of Famer Warren Sapp. Talk about a tough break. From there, things took a pretty sharp nosedive. He graduates in 1995 but goes completely undrafted in the NFL. Still refusing to give up, he heads north to Canada and signs with the Calgary Stampeders in the CFL. But then, they move him out of his natural defensive tackle position and make him a linebacker. He gets bumped down to the practice squad. And then comes the absolute lowest point. Just 2 months into the season, he gets cut. Entirely. I really want you to put yourself in his shoes for a second. Imagine dedicating your entire youth, your body, and your mind to this one singular goal, only to be told you just aren't good enough. So what do you do when your life's dream is cut short? Well, you have to pivot. And for Dwayne Johnson, that meant falling back on a family legacy that had been simmering in the background all along. And wow, what an incredible legacy to fall back on. The guy was backed by literal wrestling royalty. On his dad's side, Rocky Johnson made history as the very first Black WWE Tag Team Champion back in 1983 alongside Tony Atlas. Then on his mom's side, his grandfather, Peter Maivia, was a legendary Samoan wrestler from the famous Inouye family, and his grandmother, Leah Maivia, was a trailblazing early female promoter. Pro wrestling was quite literally in his DNA. It was the ultimate safety net. The contrast here is just mind-blowing. On one hand, you have his football reality, a backup, undrafted, and cut. But on the other hand, you have his wrestling destiny, a 10-time world champion, headlining WrestleMania 6 times, and becoming the defining icon of the entire Attitude Era. Failing at his first dream didn't destroy him. It actually became the exact catalyst for a historic, record-breaking run in the WWF. And his rise to the top of that industry was incredibly fast. Back in 1996, his dad and veteran Pat Patterson helped him get some tryouts, and he debuted as this super smiley, generic rookie named Rocky Maivia. But, as it turns out, fans didn't really buy the pure grinning good guy routine. They ruthlessly rejected him. He needed an edge. So in 1997, while he was recovering from a knee injury, he pivoted yet again. He joined the Nation of Domination faction, let his natural charisma take over, and boom, by 1998, just 2 years after his debut, he was the WWF champion. He completely transformed from a struggling football player into this insanely charismatic trash talker known simply as The Rock. The achievements are just off the charts. He was the first world champion of African descent in the promotion, a 2-time Intercontinental champ, 5-time tag team champ, and he won the 2000 Royal Rumble. But it wasn't just about winning matches. His unique personality created these legendary catchphrases and merchandising gold that redefined the entire industry, which of course paved the way for the Hollywood mega career that followed. So, what does this all mean for us? Well, it brings up a really fascinating question I want to leave you with. What if Dwayne Johnson had never been cut from the Calgary Stampeders? What if he had just been a completely average, functional linebacker in the CFL for a decade? We probably never would have had The Rock, the blockbuster movies, or the massive global business empire. It is a powerful reminder that sometimes what feels like a devastating rejection in the moment might just be the exact push you need for unprecedented success. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you enjoyed it, and keep learning.